Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to the Accelerator with Michael Conniff. That's me today. We are very excited to be joined by Sean Clifford and Pat Waters from Team Group Holdings. Sean, I'm going to introduce him as a businessman first, player second. He's the president of Limitless, which is focused on NIL business for Team Group. Pat is a longtime sports marketing guru. And leader. His company is Strategic Sports Marketing and also Sports Vault. All three of those are divisions of Team Group Holdings. And Sean, of course, has this other like a day job, a day job with the Green Bay Packers, playing quarterback. Was a star at Penn State, and had the idea of jumping onto the Limitless, not just the Limitless, the NIL movement, which started. You were still at Penn State, I believe, and I actually just
Correct.
listened to your podcast with your buddy Brenneman called Brenneman
Yes.
Shows Up. Very good podcast.
Yep.
So I know a little bit of the background, but you played 6 years at Penn State, so you're kind of in a way historically like a transition figure because you were there when it started as an athlete and you started making money. So what was it like not to make money and then suddenly to make money? And then how did that drive you into Limitless?
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on, Michael. It's been a crazy ride. The Wild Wild West, is a lot of people call it. It's a little bit more structured now, so it can definitely, you know, give kudos where it's due. We've made a lot of good changes, both with our company and numerous companies that we've worked alongside with NIL. But before 2021, July 1st, 2021, when legislation passed, it was typical day in the life of as a student athlete. You're living on a stipend, trying to make ends meet every once in a while, but really living out of the facility, free food, wherever you could get anything free, you're going to try to make that happen. So before NIL, it was a lot of a lot less business and a lot more ball. And now it's a nice blend between finding your why outside of football or whatever sport you might be playing, and being able to blend that with the sport you love.
And I want to ask before I jump over to Pat, I wanted to ask just what was it like for your teammates and you in the locker room? You go from being, I mean, it's really well documented. I think one of the best examples of college athletes struggling to buy a pizza is the Fab Four, the Michigan basketball team
Right.
that were huge stars and had no money and were pretty resentful about it, with good reason, I think. But did it change the dynamics, or has it changed the dynamics of the locker room?
It has. It has in good ways and bad ways. Specifically in the Penn State locker room, it's been mostly all good. We've had the right characters in there to be able to move the needle in a positive direction. But I like to focus on the good, and the good has really been to bring business minds into light with a lot of these athletes, because before that, you were just an athlete. That you were a student first, athlete second, and that was it. But now, being able to explore other avenues and other opportunities outside of your sport, it allows a much more holistic view of what you see as your brand, and what you see as really an entrepreneur, because that's what every athlete is now, is their own business and their own and their own path towards success. So it's been good, I would say, overall.
And that is new compared to the old days where Andy Robustelli on the Giants had a shoe store in Connecticut, where people sold insurance or all sorts of things. Now, Pat, you've been in sports a very long time. You've kind of seen it all. What was it about what Sean was doing that kind of brought you together with Limitless?
Yeah. So when that crazy Supreme Court ruling came through in July 21st of 2021, I saw it.
Name, image, and
I was
likeness, we should point out. Yeah, not everybody knows what
exactly
NIL means. Name, image, and likeness. Athletes can profit on themselves while
correct.
still in school.
Yeah, and when that was pushed through by the Supreme Court, like I said, back in 2021, we saw opportunity to go out and do what we had done successfully, which is partner athletes with brands at the professional level. Now we were going to be very selective about doing it at the collegiate level. A mutual business acquaintance, as we got started, we signed up a couple of kids, went through the learning curve, and somebody said, "Hey, you should take a ride up and talk to Sean Clifford. There might be some synergies with what he's doing." So I took, that 3 hour trek up to State College. I sat down across from Sean, really didn't know what to expect. We kind of booked about a half an hour together. And I think probably about 5.5 hours later, I just said, "Hey, he's already got what I want to build." And we just clicked. I mean, immediately from that moment, Sean and his brother Liam, we sat across from each other, which was kind of an impromptu meeting. And I said, "Why build it when we have it right here?" And Sean asked me, I think at that point, he said, "Would you be our first board member?" And I said, "Sean, give me about a week. I got a better idea. let's let's get back together." And that's where we sat back down. I said, "Let's put these two companies together. You have the same moral compass. The guys have what we want already in place." I mean, what they had built out, the infrastructure and NIL, I hadn't seen anything like it. We certainly didn't have what they had, and we had the same common goals, and the rest is history. We put it together last year.
That's great. And I want to remind everyone you're listening to the Accelerator podcast. We're on all the major audio platforms: Apple, Amazon, Audible, etc. Also on Spotify and YouTube with video and audio. Also, our Substack newsletter, which delivers the podcast and other goodies to you, is the accelerator.substack.com. And we have a companion podcast called The Angel as well. So, Sean, I want to follow up on what Pat said. He said you had the infrastructure. What did he mean? What does he mean by that? What did you have in place at that point?
Well, initially it was just a fantastic team that has been built out to even farther than when we made that sale. But it's a funny story. My brother and I, when we were working out of quite literally just my apartment, I lived at a complex that had a very nice kind of group offering where it was an office space, just a clubhouse with a pool and whatnot. And if you know anything about Penn State, when it's the summer, there's no one there. It's just the athletes and international students. So it's just the two groups. So there's not many people to take up that space. So I went ahead and I actually asked the manager at our complex and said, "Hey, I have this business. We're operating it currently just out of my living room. I would love to be able to bring my employees in, some clients and different people like Pat, who eventually came through, to the complex." And it ended up being fantastic. We operated out of my apartment space, whatever you want to call it, really. And it just continued to build. And the beauty of it, we switched our mailing address to that area. The people knew when certain people walked through that door, when an athlete walked through that door, they just pointed directly at our office space right behind. Do we have some interruptions every once in a while? Yeah, but that's what a startup is all about, just finding a way. So it really was as startup grimy as ever. Now we have a nice, beautiful 2-story in Downingtown, Pennsylvania, so can't complain whatsoever, but came a long way. But definitely initially it was a grind.
That's great. Now we should also point out you're
Mike,
coming to us from Green Bay, where the food is still free at the facility. So Sean is no fool about that sort of thing. Yes, Pat, go ahead.
no, I was going to say, just to add to that, Sean mentioned they used the clubhouse facility. Michael, I'm here to tell you they took it over. I went in there and they had a whole business operating, Uber dropping off athletes. They had little individual meeting rooms within there. It was like Grand Central Station. It was so cool. It just, like I told, it really did. It got my entrepreneurial juices flowing when I walked out of there. I went to the hotel that night to meet my son and my wife, and I couldn't sleep. The wheels were turning that whole night.
You're
So it was
so
awesome.
excited. And Sean, when I think about this idea of the athlete as entrepreneur, I give a lot of credit to Magic Johnson as I think kind of showing what could be done with his Magic Johnson. I think it's Magic Johnson Enterprises. Um, but then, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the money started to go big, get so big at the top of the pyramid. There were the athletes just had so much money, they had to do something with it, other than you like stick it in a savings account. But now with NIL, do you think that philosophy of an athlete sort of has to be an entrepreneur, has to be an influencer, has to have like a public facing business sense? Is that kind of pervasive, becoming pervasive, both in college and pro sports?
I think it's moving the needle forward and growing the industry as a whole. I think it's honestly a extremely fantastic opportunity to be able to not only build your brand and monetize your name, image, and likeness, but a true opportunity to find a why outside of your sport. Because when I found business and when I found this opportunity in this industry, the sports industry that I really did not know about until NIL came out, I was just a football player. I was a football player just trying to find my way, and the only out was making it to the NFL. But the beauty of what NIL and this industry and everything that's progressed alongside of it is now given athletes an opportunity to really and truly find a why beyond sport. So that way, when they exit sport, whenever that might be, whether it be collegiately, high school, professionally, they have something to lean on because they have developed their mindset outside of what they do on a day-to-day basis. So I think it's fantastic. I'm super pro NIL, always have and always will.
Yeah, that's not surprising, Sean.
Yeah, as it should be. Yeah.
Put some money in your pocket. Pat, what do team stands for? I believe technology. Tell me if I'm
And
wrong. Entertainment, athletes. What's the M? Media, maybe?
marketing.
Marketing. Okay, so what do you do for an athlete? So here's my real question for you, Pat, as somebody who's been in this a long time. Um, when I look at this landscape of NIL platforms, it's getting crowded. It's really getting crowded out there, and it's very hard to differentiate one from the other. So I guess what I would ask you, and then I'll ask Sean, is how do you what makes you unique, and how do you make sure you take care of the A and team, so to speak?
Yeah, well, the A is the key, and um, Limitless, their mantra, which really got me, was for the athletes by the athletes. So we're hitting on the A, as Sean mentioned. It's not a high level group marketing that's trying to drill into this group. These are athletes have been there. They know the rigors of sports. They know the time it takes on being a student athlete, and we don't just hand out. We create true marketing packages where the athlete has duties that they need to perform, and the company is going to see a return on investment. So we marry the two. That's always my background, was always monetizing an athlete's brand outside of their a professional athlete's brand outside of their contract. And that's partnering them with companies, partnering them with like-minded brands, and it's got to be a win-win for both. So, we're not just handing out checks to athletes. We're not going to knock any of the collectives because they have their place at all the universities, but we truly are a niche boutique marketing company. And the athletes are learning as they go. I think one of the key words that Sean always said is we empower our athletes, right? That's what we do. We empower them to understand how the deal works, how a company needs it has to be a win-win, how a company needs an ROI. And that's what gets you your second, your third, and recidivative deals that come down the road. Really, that's what we do. We're a boutique marketing company, and we empower our athletes. And like I said, not every one of them is going to be a professional athlete. Sean, that was his dream. He fulfilled it. We like to think we work with caliber athletes, and our percentage is going to be pretty strong. But at the end of the day, we're preparing these young men and women for life and the real world if they don't choose that professional sports path.
The real world is kind of morphing for this. So, Sean, what is your pitch to athletes as an athlete? What do you say, um, both about the situation they're in and also about what your company can bring to their situation.
Yeah, I think that first and foremost, our offering is very clear cut. No red lines. No behind the curtain conversations. We're bringing everything to the forefront. We're going to describe everything that is happening from a deal to deal basis, from a day to day basis, from a marketing perspective, from building your brand, and everything in between, because that is what I wanted in an agency. So I had the opportunity alongside a fantastic team and my awesome brother to be, and now with the help of somebody who's been in the professional industry for 25 years, doing this at a very high level, we've had the opportunity to build something that's not only a marketing company that can work alongside of Fortune 500 businesses across the country. We also now have a vehicle that empowers, like Pat said, empowers the athlete and takes away all the red tape, all the redlining, and being able to say, hey, if you want to educate yourself, if you want to learn, if you want to grow, not only as a player, but also as a brand, this is the perfect place to do it, because it's proven. I've done it myself. My brother's doing it currently at Penn State, and every athlete that we've come in contact with has had a positive experience. So it's all about gaining that collective group, that bringing that collective group alongside to make sure that everyone is moving in the right direction.
And your brother, we should point out, is still a wide receiver at Penn State, or has been a wide receiver.
Still a wide receiver at Penn State. Just had his first year starting this past year, so he's looking to hopefully join me at the G pretty soon.
In the big league. So a key metric here, Pat, would be how many athletes have you signed up, and what are you doing with them? What's happening?
Yeah, well, on the Limitless side, I would probably pass that over to Sean. But we're somewhere in the we've gone scaled up to around 100. We've scaled back a little bit. Right now, I think we're settled in probably around 50 or 60, Sean. Right now that we have keyed in on.
Yep. Yeah. And really it's a nice blend, Michael, of working with elite, our elite talent, people that we're working on a day-to-day basis. But the beauty is the network continues to expand. And that's really that Limitless core offering, the more general pool group, where we have so many relationships with great agents, great collectives, great universities, where they might not be in the Limitless direct elite talent pool, but we have thousands of athletes in their network that we're working with on a day-to-day basis, impacting in a positive light.
So the collective is a big part of this, and I just learned about it really very recently, despite being a pretty rabid sports fan. I think what clued me to it was I read a story that said Rick Pitino, the new coach at St. John's, the basketball coach, was, quote, spending all of his time raising money for the collective. So I'll let either one of you take it, but what is a collective, and why should we care, and why does everyone care?
Yeah, I can fill in the dots there, Pat, if you don't mind. Since I was quite literally just there at the college level dealing
Yeah.
alongside of the collective, but really the bare bones thought of a collective is to group all the athletes into to one pool and say, hey, you are protected under our umbrella. And there's great collectives out there. There's ones that are trying to improve. But all in all, it's about being able to really put a group licensing agreement type organization together to be able to move all the athletes, whether it be men's sports, women's sports, you name it, to be able to move them to brands effectively and easily, and also be able to vet agencies like us. Obviously, we have nothing to hide, and we are very friendly with a lot of the collectives, so it's something that we pride ourselves on. But really, when it comes to working alongside these collectives, their number one thing is trying to push the school and trying to push the motto, the mantra. Specifically, if you're talking about Penn State, it's the success with honor type group. The group that is trying to push, the whole deal of what Penn State truly means. So always trying to help them in any way that we possibly can.
So just and maybe you can clarify this a little bit, Pat. So the collective raises money. effectively, right? But raises money for all athletes or just the upper tier of athletes?
Yeah.
I've read stories about people saying every lineman is going to get 60 grand or something like that. Is it everyone, or is it just the elite?
So each collective has different philosophies throughout the country. They're not every state is regulated the same way. Not every university collective is run the same way. But in essence, yes, the collectives actually started out as a 501 c3. It was a
Nonprofit,
not for
yeah.
profit. Yeah, and they started out, guys, donations were able to be tax write-offs, such and such. That quickly, the IRS
Mhm.
shut that down after 1 year. We were pretty confident that was going to happen. But to answer your questions, they use it in a lot of different ways, and it's, from what we've seen, it's proportionate to the sports that bring in the same, the most income, right? The most revenue for the schools. There's a direct ratio with how much they turn back around into each program. But the goal for a collective doing it the right way is to sprinkle something through all of the collegiate sports, both men and women's.
Yeah, so what's interesting is an athlete like Caitlin Clark, biggest female college basketball star, maybe the biggest basketball star right now.
Potentially.
Right, so she's, I think, has a choice, and a similar, not unlike yours, Sean. You decided to spend the sixth year, post-pandemic year at Penn State, and I think you got an advanced degree that way in broadcasting. Is that right?
I did,
So
yes.
getting ready for the future. But Caitlin Clark, it seems like she might be able to make more money if she stays than if she goes. Is
Oh
that
yeah.
is that how you guys read it?
Yeah, so it's a pretty interesting case study to look at alongside with a lot of these athletes that are in college right now, because we talk about it always in the locker room. You can look up my salary online. The Green Bay Packers and everybody posts it.
I did look up your salary. You
Perfect. I'm glad that you did.
you have a 4-year contract, right?
Yes.
And
Yes,
you're in
4
your
years.
second year, but the NFL being the NFL, you can be cut at any moment.
Could be traded, could be cut, could be
Yeah.
it could be it go a million different ways.
Yeah, it's a
Yes.
contract until you don't have one.
Yes, absolutely. It's a contract until you don't have one.
Yeah.
But in light of Caitlin Clark and everything that's going on with her, it's really we talk about it all the time in the locker room. Guys and girls are taking pay cuts now to go professional, which is the conversation in itself. Now, I can't say the same. I wasn't taking a pay cut to go back to Penn State. I was going back to Penn State to continue to pursue my dream of playing in the NFL, because at that point, the draft wars and everybody was saying I was not a contender to be there. Now, the Rose Bowl definitely helps. A good season at Penn State definitely helps. So I got to project myself out and be able to build my portfolio and my resume of why I should be in the NFL. So that is one way of looking at it. But for a girl like Caitlin Clark, she 100% going to the professional league would be taking a pay cut. So it is definitely something to watch, something that everybody as a sports fan should be looking at. How are players like that going to handle that type of pressure? And it's going to be interesting how it all plays out.
So, Pat, I want to ask you, while we still have a couple minutes, what kind of deals have you done? Who are some of the athletes you're working with on the marketing side?
Yeah, so you're talking specifically in NIL or college, or we're
Either,
kind of
whatever,
heavy.
whatever you're
No,
doing.
so we do a lot of stuff with teams in the Northeast. We had we have some players lined up. They're not signed deals yet. So with the Kansas City Chiefs, we had some contingencies with a couple of the San Francisco 49ers. We're big in jumping into hot market stuff. That's really a key to success. A consumer with emotion is a
Mhm.
spending consumer, and we've
Yeah.
been very good monetizing that. So that's part of really been our bread and butter on the professional side. One of the things I did want to just circle back to on athletes and people we're working with. Some of our top, one of the things I've been so proud about with Limitless, it's not so much our quantity right now, it's the quality of student athletes we're working with and influencers. Some of our top uh, revenue generators. One of them is a lacrosse player in the Northeast, and one of them is a female basketball player. So,
Mhm.
collegiate basketball player. So I really like the fact that you know, we're spread across. People think NIL all about football, right? But the earners and, what we've seen are ones that will, take the advice and follow the the athlete influencer model that Limitless has really created. So,
Yeah.
that's where I tip my hat to those guys.
And Sean, I wanted Pat in a previous conversation mentioned something called the quarterback club. So I'm gonna commit a mortal sin, which is asking a question I don't know the answer to. So is there such a thing, and what is it?
Yeah, so the quarterback club was actually developed. It was myself, Will Levis, who's the starter for the Tennessee Titans, and then a few other guys who are involved with the group. But the quarterback club was quite literally just to bring in great minds, great speakers to be able to educate some of the top quarterbacks in the country. It has now transpired into a venture group that puts deals together for athletes, and then we also, alongside, partner with Limitless NIL to do marketing alongside these raises.
Right.
So it has been something that is going to be honestly in the works as we go. Going to be very, very influential for companies that we partner with, but also for the athletes and Limitless as a whole. So it's a win-win-win across the board. A great opportunity to educate, bring in some great networking opportunities to quarterbacks and also just NFL players in general, and get them a seat at the table. Because that's one of the things that I would say a hot button topic right now that is changing. Before, it was a lot more just ownership and founders just sitting at the table talking about athletes. And now there are actual athletes and influencers moving to the table and being able to speak on their own behalf. So that is it's a big development, I would say, in the sports industry as a whole, and it'll only get bigger and better as we continue.
Isn't that because, in at least in part, maybe large part, because athletes have so much money now, professional, athletes. I
Yeah,
mean,
I would say Yeah, I would say 100%. There's, the more capital, the more access to capital that you have, the more opportunities that you're going to find yourself in, and that is really between college, professionally, and beyond. Legacy players, everybody's looking for that new Tesla, that new big company, that big private placement that you could find yourself in a
yeah.
niche that a consumer good or whatever it might be that you use on a daily basis. If you're going to use it on a daily basis, then why not be on the cap table?
Yeah, no, it makes great sense. I want to remind everyone again, this is the Accelerator podcast. I'm Michael Conniff, your host. We're here with Sean Clifford and Pat Waters. Pat and Sean are Team Group Holdings. Sean is in charge of Limitless. Pat is in charge of strategic sports marketing and the Sports Vault. They've come together recently, as you've just heard. And I want to, I almost forgot to mention does this other thing in Green Bay as a quarterback for the Green Bay Packers, which is super cool. So I want to thank you both for being with us. It's really been a pleasure, and I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
And as I like to say at the end of our podcast, thanks for watching, and remember, we'll be back with another podcast before you know it. Thanks.